this black man sued his city for racial discrimination. Cleon Brown was a sergeant in the Hastings, Michigan Police Department. One day he got curious and decided to do an ancestry DNA test. He was always curious about his father, who had tan skin and dark curly hair. He always assumed that it was because he was part Native American. But when his daughter was born, she was diagnosed with a disease that was only common in African Americans. But after the DNA results came back, Cleon was surprised that he had 20% African DNA. I mean, the name Cleon didn't give it away. Like anyone who takes these tests, they're excited to tell people the results, and he told his co-workers, and that's when problems started. According to Cleon Brown, once he told his colleagues that he was part black, they started calling him Kunta, referring to him as the enslaved character from the television miniseries Roots, Kunta Kinte. He also stated that they started pumping their fists when they would walk by him and saying Black Lives Matter. He even states that in a meeting with the mayor of the town, he used the word Negroid twice in a conversation where it was apparently a joke. He ended up suing them for $500,000, and it was mediated and there was a mutual agreement made, but we don't know the exact amount.
So, I don't know if this narrator was being facetious or something by calling the white guy in the story a black man, but just in case he wasn't, or even if he was, okay, I want to address that comment because there are some people who are going to take it seriously. I see a lot of people talking about the only requirement for being black is that you experience oppression, and that's quite racist. That's like saying the only requirement to be white is that you not be able to dance. Does that not sound ridiculous? Like, I can't dance. Am I white now? I don't think so, right? So I see a lot of people talking about the only requirement to be black is that you experience racism. And they be saying this seriously. Like, if you tell them, oh, you're not black, they'll be like, oh, well, I experienced racism too. Okay, congratulations. Like, what are you saying, right? So I want to address that comment because, again, even if he was joking or whatever, there are a lot of people who are going to take it seriously. They're going to be like, oh, well, race is a social construct and he experienced this, this anti-blackness, so that makes him black. No, that does not make him black. All that means is that white people's hatred of actual black people is truly ridiculous. When there are no black people around, they will turn on each other as the next thing to torture with anti-blackness. Isn't that insane? Now, my first thing is this. This is a white man, right? And as soon as his co-workers learned that he had a drop of black in him, they began to be violently anti-black towards him. So can you imagine what actual black people go through? In fact, I know I'm not making this up. There was something that recently happened with an actual black police officer. Like, his co-workers, I swear there was something with a noose and somebody left a letter saying something. Like, this definitely happened within like the last year or two, right? So that's the first thing I want to talk about, because white people and even some non-black people of color will gaslight black people talking about we're perpetual victims and so and so and so and yada, yada, yada. But again, can you see how you all treat each other when you have a drop of blackness in you? So why are we acting shocked here when black people say you treat us horrifically when we are actually black? Like, y'all will treat each other terribly, even though y'all not even black, just based off the fact that you got a little dibble dabble of it in you. So why is anybody surprised that y'all would treat actual black people terrible? Oh, y'all not. Y'all just want to gaslight black people. Now, this is my next point. Like I said, this one instance is not an anomaly or anything, because I can think of another one just off the top of my head that happened against an actual black police officer. And I believe they was doing crazy stuff. Like, I swear they cut his brakes or something ridiculous, right? And I'm bringing this up because isn't it scary to think about how these are the people who are in charge of protecting black people? Like, who do you call when you're in trouble? You're going to call 911, the police, right? These are the people in charge of protecting us. But then when we complain about police brutality and how these people treat us horribly, everybody gaslights us again. Oh, well, they're just like that because you guys commit more crime. But then all these studies come out, like the study about stop and frisk, where it's like, oh yeah, like they actually just pull black people over more. It's not that black people are doing more crime. It's that they just get pulled over more and harassed. And still, everybody's still gaslighting us. Like, what? I wish people would just be more upfront. Just say, I don't like black people. Y'all deserve what you get. Just say that. Why do you sit there and pretend that the things that are clearly happening are not happening? Now, this is my next thing. This occurred in the state of Michigan. This is so funny because I've talked in the past about how white people like to use other groups of white people as a scapegoat. So sometimes they'll acknowledge racism, but only in other groups of white people, not themselves, right? So you'll notice like white women will blame white men. They'll be like, oh, like they have all the power, we're oppressed by them too. White men will blame white women. They'll be like, oh, they're Karens, yada, 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 so and so and so, right? Another example of this is the fact that white Northerners will blame white Southerners. They'll be like, oh, that's the Confederacy. Up here was freedom, so and so and so, yada, 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 right? And I say this all the time. All of y'all are racist. I don't care if you're a white woman, a white man, a white gay, a white Southerner, a white Northerner, whatever. All of y'all are racist and looking for a scapegoat, because that allows them to pretend that they are not the issue and they can avoid fixing said issue because of that, right? Because look, of course, as a white person, white supremacy kind of rocks for you, right? So they don't like to admit this, but of course, they don't want to dismantle white supremacy because it's a good time for them, right? So instead of just saying that, instead they blame other groups of white people and say, oh, it's your job to dismantle it, not mine, right? So I'm pointing out that this happened in Michigan because that's one of the scapegoat mechanisms that a lot of white people use. Like, oh yeah, it was white Southerners. Oh, if you go to Alabama or something, they super racist, but we're not up here. No, y'all are racist too. I'm from the state of Michigan, and I kid y'all not. When I was in college, matter of fact, I got my Michigan State shirt on, right? Most of the black students at Michigan State were from Detroit, right? So since most of us were from the same city, we all took a similar route to Michigan State, right? So, we get on the Lodge, get on the 696, yada, 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 right? So this was common knowledge amongst the black students that Howell, Michigan is a sundown town. You do not need to stop in Howell, Michigan, okay? Now, there's going to be a bunch of white people who went to Michigan State like, my dog diggity, I've never heard such tales. Because you're white. That's not pertinent information to you. You can stop in Howell, Michigan at any time of day and be fine because you're white. But the black students all knew. Everybody told everybody black, don't stop in Howell, Michigan. If you got to stop to get some gas, stop somewhere else. Do not stop there. It is a sundown town, right? And again, this is in the state of Michigan. So when white people get on here and lying and talking about only Southerners are racist and this, that, all of this, I don't even believe it, because I'm from the state of Michigan. Y'all got sundown towns here. I was just in Belleville a couple months ago. Somebody had Confederate flag boxing gloves hanging from their car's mirror. I saw a Confederate flag in somebody else's back window. This is in Michigan. So I don't want to hear that crap when y'all be talking about, oh yeah, that's only the South. It's not rooted in reality. Next thing I want to point out is, okay, this white guy said he had some suspicions about his dad's background because his dad had tan skin and like curly hair, right? And, they always assumed it was Native American. Have you ever noticed that whenever you hear a story like this, they always assume it's Native American? They never assume it's black, because black is really their worst nightmare, right? And I say this all the time because non-black people of color like to play in black people's faces. I say this all the time. Black people have it the worst. I'm not saying that non-black people of color don't experience racism. I'm not saying that. Clearly, that's not true. Anybody who is not white is going to experience racism, right? But there's very clearly a hierarchy that black people are at the bottom of. White people at the top, non-black people of color in the middle, and then black people are at the bottom, right? And this is obvious, because if you go into any non-black people of color community, they hate black people too. Like, it's not just white people that hate black people, right? And then you notice it with white people because, again, they'd rather be part Native American or something and attribute their tan skin and curly hair to that than blackness, right? And again, I point this out because y'all like to play in black people's faces. Oh, y'all super victims, so and so and so. Yeah, because we're super victimized. The reality is we go through more than you. That's just the reality. That's the reality. And you know this because you would not want to go through what black people go through. You know good and well. Anyway, the last thing I'm going to say is this. This white man was 20% black, and he was violently harassed to the point where he sued the city and apparently won some money. Now, don't nobody know what the exact amount is, but he won something, right? This is a white man who got payment for the anti-blackness that he experienced, right? If an actual black person sought out some compensation for the anti-blackness that we experience, y'all be writing think pieces about how we perpetual victims and so and so and so and yada yada yada. But when a white dude wants some compensation for the anti-blackness that he experienced, oh, it's just pip pip cheerio, mate. That's fine, okay? So everybody can benefit from anti-blackness, but actual black people.